is not pretty. And if the land is basically deprived of what it takes for long-term sustainability, then that's not a good thing. So people should look beyond the initial flush of royalties into what happens when it comes time for reclamation and things like that. I mean, I would point out that one of the first things that our organization was involved in was coal mining, coal strip mining. Now, I don't know if anybody now who has any axe to grind with the coal industry. It's because there's a very competent Surface Mining and Reclamation Act. The coal companies don't ruin neighbors' lands. They rehabilitate all the land that they've used. And it's a beautiful thing. People make money, energy is supplied for the world, and the land is there when they're gone. That's all we want. We want to see the same thing happen in coal bed methane, which, by the way, is a much more ephemeral economic development than the coal industry is.
It seems kind of ironic that someone with your substantial background in oil and gas has decided to take sides with the environmental groups, if you will, the opposition groups too. And I use that term because
there you go again, as Ronald Reagan would say.
But I just want to say, you know, what basically turned you around to reevaluate? I mean, you used to be on the production side, and now you're on the opposite side.
No, I haven't changed sides at all. In my previous work in the oil and gas industry, it involved the same things. We were against externalization of costs. We were for doing things right and for maximizing everybody's benefit, not just the producers, not just the taxers, but the landowners as well. And we should be doing that here.
Who determines what's right and what's standards? I mean, the federal government has come out numerous times saying that they think that some of the safeguards that are in place in Wyoming, for example, in coal bed methane, are very adequate. The oil companies themselves have said they're very adequate, and yet your organization keeps challenging them at every point. And I'm just asking, who sets those standards?
There's no way we challenge them at every point. I mean, this is a myth. I don't know where you've picked up this stuff. We look at specific things and try to prevent specific problems. And
the water is the big problem. In your opinion,
the water is a big problem.
In your organization,
and taking the water away from us forevermore is part of that problem.
Okay. What is within your organization? What would you say would basically make your group positive for coal bed methane development? What would you like to see in the way of water treatment, handling of water, the discharges, and so on and so forth? What would your group like to see in that regard?
Well, our group is positive for coal bed methane development. I don't know how many times I have to say that. Okay. But we want it done right. And to do it right, certainly landowners should be able to use the water to their heart's content as long as damaging water doesn't go beyond their borders. Okay. We have a problem with some of the misuse, we think, of eminent domain law in this state, where private developers, that is the coal bed methane companies, have been allowed to condemn our members' lands as a route to run water over. We'd like to see that more balanced so we could figure out jointly with them what should happen. We'd certainly like to prevent any harmful water, that is water with too high a salinity or trace elements which are damaging to plants, not be allowed to be discharged. And that can be re-injected, it can be treated and then discharged. There are all sorts of things that people are doing now and which we're not challenging. And of course, we'd like to see something done over the long term to keep the water where it's accumulated for 10 or 20,000 years, that is in our deep aquifers, rather than going down the Yellowstone River to the Missouri to the Mississippi. But that's something that's going to take a lot of thought and a lot of innovation. I mean, I'm sitting in a city right now whose water costs are out of sight. Gillette's running out of water, and yet people discharged to flow out of the state are evaporated 500 million barrels of water last year. So we should get together as a society and deal with that.
Okay. You out?
What's that?
What's up?
Oh, when the light gets too hot, it
Goes out.
It's got a timer.
Okay.
You know, the battery's about dead.
Good job. Doing great.
God, I didn't realize you came over here to smear
It's
it.
unfortunate.
Okay, we're ready to go.
I mean, the U.S. government needs the energy, and we just need to figure out ways to make it work if that's possible. And I think you're addressing a
But
lot
you know,
of
I
issues.
wish people would pay more attention to the way economic development occurs, both positively and negatively. I
Mhm.
mean, short-term boom-bust development is
Mhm.
something that we should all worry about. Impact funds should be created and paid. I mean, we got roads that are ruined by this, and the state's dealing with that. But externalization of costs for a 5 to 10 year industry is something that people have looked back and rued in the past in many places. So.
Can I ask you this? Do you have coal bed methane on your property here?
Yes.
Okay. And have you been satisfied with the way that it's been handled on? You know, a
Well,
lot of,
it hadn't been drilled yet.
okay.
They've come out and set the wells and things like that. But we've been fortunate in our valley. We live in the Clear Creek Valley, which is a very important stream. It's a tributary to the Powder, flows into the Powder. And DEQ industry, some landowners, and the Powder River Basin Resource Council all spent almost a year discussing how water disposal should be regulated there. You know, we didn't get everything we want, and industry didn't get everything they want, but we came up with a much better thing than would have happened had DEQ not put that group together. So
That's good.
it looks promising in that if the final rules are published in the way that I hope they will be.
Well, in our experience in interviewing landowners here too, is the situation, conversation keeps coming back to the same thing. It's how involved the landowners are in conversing with the companies that they're going to be dealing with, and having them educate themselves on the processes, and to ask the right questions and to demand the right things, and it's worked out well for people.
That's right.
In this.
And that's been a lot of our work. I mean, we have landowners' guides that we've published, and we spend a lot of time working for the surface owners bill that did pass the Wyoming legislature. But let me tell you one other thing, Joe, that's concerned me throughout, and which is really beyond our control. I mean, there are coal bed methane companies and there are coal bed methane companies. There's so many, too many, I think, of these limited liability corporations that some lawyer in Toledo puts together. He raises 50, 60, $100 million from some union pension fund, which he pays basically himself, a construction company which he creates. And call it what you will, you've heard of them around here. They're methane developers. And they go in as cheaply as they can, spend all this money developing with every intent to declare bankruptcy before they have to reclaim anything. And if they find methane, great, they all get really rich. If they don't find methane, who cares? They declare bankruptcy, the landowner's left holding the bag, and they walk away and create another LLC. I mean, there are those organizations here, and that's bad.
Yeah, that's bad for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard long ago when they first started, I guess back in 2000s when the coal bed methane really started, and there were some situations where there were unscrupulous companies coming in and, you know, just go through and tear through the land and obviously leave, and like you said. But there are a lot of legitimate companies as well. And
Oh
I
yeah,
guess,
I'm the first to say that. I mean,
but there's a real need from the United States